Now we're going to go into the enterprise mastery section, which is the software control panel. But each week is a concept because the software supports the concept. So this week's concept here we go, is about blogging. What is a blog, and how do you use it? What can you do with it? And using it as a tool for whatever means of creative outlet you have, and the niftiness of the blog, and why there's 3 billion blogs or more. It's some ridiculous of a trillion blogs out there now. 17 trillion blogs. Probably there's 17 trillion blogs out there. What is this blog thing, and how do I get in on it? Right. So I'm going to be talking about the importance and the usefulness of a blog. Wait a minute. Okay, I don't know. This is all over the place. Calendar. Okay, never mind. Importance of a blog. Now, I've been doing this for quite some time. Before blogs existed, I was writing blogs. Back then, we called them web pages. Okay, but somebody came up with a mechanism. See, this is before there were CMSs, a content management system, right? Which are some means to access a database. A database is a block of lines and information that's stacked inside those little tables and cells, very simplified way. But then these content management systems can access the database and paint a picture inside your browser that stays consistent between pages. Back then, we just had to make all of our web pages consistent, or do a little bit of CSS or JavaScript to make it kind of seem fancy-ish, but we all worked out of the public HTML folder. Does anybody remember those days, or ever work out of the public HTML folder? How about a CGI bin? Anybody ever used a CGI bin? Okay, so this is before your time. And we've had, right. So we've had some changes that have kind of, they're innovative, and they've done some really neat things for the industry. They come up with these little content management systems that are consistent through, and you can just put content in instead of building the page from scratch HTML. So I created a site a long time ago, vegetarianrecipe.com. And it was a recipe index and an article index and a database index. And there was these indexes, right? A to Z. What are all these definitions, all these natural things, right? And then there was all these recipes categorized in appetizers and desserts and entrees and beverages, right? And then there was all these random articles that were actually kind of pointed to products in the shopping cart kind of thing, right? Okay. That was all in HTML. But practically speaking, except for the main navigational pages, all of that was actually a blog. We just didn't have a blog tool to actually put in all those journal entries. So what is a blog? It's a web log. What is a log? A diary, a journal, right? So if you ever think about a diary or a journal, this is a blog. And you think about how much freedom you have inside of a diary or a journal or a sketchbook, right? You can practice a lot inside of a diary and a blog and a diary and a journal and a sketchbook. But practice can become perfect after you get so good. You get so good, like everything you do is golden, because there's actually, like from the perspective of an artist will do some emotional, frivolous stuff or whatever is right, but designer directs the attention and communicates with the message to get an end result out of maybe a direct emotional response or a direct action or a direct mood, right? So blogs can be used for any range of creative outlet. They're extremely dynamic. They can be categorized, and they can be shared. They could be privatized. They could be member access, but basically it's a continuation of your thoughts. It's a place to take those, those fleeting thoughts that you have in your mind, right? And sometimes they're really, really good thoughts, and it's like, that's such a good thought. I'm gonna totally do that, and I don't really need to write it down because it's such a good thought. I'll think about that later.
No,
Did anybody ever have that experience and then you try and remember it? I was like, what was that cool thing I was thinking about? God, I just don't even, I can't even, like, what? Right? Well, imagine if you had a place to actually capture that in cyberspace and crystallize it, okay? Now, we know that there's like the tweets and there's the Facebook posts, right? You can share other people's thoughts around, okay? But if you be creative or a designer of sorts, right? You want to actually capture and appreciate these things, these golden nuggets of ideas that come by before they just fly off into the ethers. And you can put it in a blog. And you can refine it in a blog. That blog does not have to stay just a few jotted notes. It can evolve into a very sound article. And then you hit publish. And then you hit share and invite your friends to share it. And then you have, this is social media. The whole thing of social media is like packaging without content. Okay. Sorry about my acting this out. That's so strange, but that's what it seems like to me.
I almost wondered if there's too many blogs now. And I mean, it's almost felt like sometimes I've missed the blog train.
No.
I mean, do people still sit down and read?
Oh yeah. People still sit down and read, but it's gotta say something, right?
Look at the magazine market 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Blogs are the everything of the internet right now because of the no longer having to write HTML pages to get your ideas created. This was the threshold. It was when they created the CMS, then all of a sudden, and then we had the social network CMS like MySpace, where you could go in and start building your cyber reality, you know, like those World of Warcraft kids. They got the whole costume thing going on, and they're going and they're meeting with their other costume friends and having their video games from across the world and stuff. They're, you know, creating these avatars and going and playing around in cyberspace and connecting with people that way in full 3D outfits. Okay, well, we're scratching the surface of 2D to 3D here, and 5D, right? You got 2D like paper, you got 3D like us, and you got 5D like thought, right? So we're going into another realm and constructing things in idea world before they get crystallized here. So you can do anything with blogs. That is what the internet is primarily made of right now, because it's so easy to hammer your ideas out and put them out there. So today I've got a worksheet that is a couple of pages out of what I've been studying for years, called the Blog Profits Blueprint. The Blog Profits Blueprint is created by Yaro Starak, and it's I would think probably the flagship, premier, best course on understanding, because it's very academic, lot of modules, but he is so concise about it. It's still old school. We have like when he talks about building your blog and connecting all this framework, that's been resolved. You don't have to build your blog or connect framework. So the concepts are what this is about. Okay, so I'm going to pass this worksheet out. I'll pass this worksheet out. This is 2 different pages back to back, but I thought that they were the most helpful breakdown of blogs, what a blog is, and how a blog is constructed. And this is page 71 and page 31 of Blog Profits Blueprint by Yaro Starak. That can be downloaded online. Email me for the link to it. It's if blogging is a direction that you're going to take your site and use the blog tool to become, internet famous, then I highly recommend learning as much as you can. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to trickle to you the most important things so that you have the framework to build your whole web business on. Or it's not just a web business. The web is now part of the business. So whatever business you're building, the web is your front end and your real ticket off the hamster wheel. So here on the Blog Profits Blueprint, we don't have one. Okay. We don't have one on the slide, but that's okay. This is exclusive stuff here. You see on the, it's like a funnel. You've heard of sales funnels? Automated marketing funnels, right? A funnel. This is a funnel example in a pictogram way that is not the actual steps or pieces of the mechanism of the funnel. This is the concept of the funnel. And what you have up here is you have the blog as the main front big scoop on the funnel, because that's the substance, that's where all your content is if you're going to use blogging as a way to drive traffic, to generate articles, drive traffic to your site. So, and the beauty of a blog is like all these social media sites, it can be shared anywhere and it comes back to your site. Okay, it is a never-ending stream of people into your funnel. Whereas with social media, you pitch something out there and it kind of stays in social media, and sometimes they can't get off their hamster wheel, like creating a Facebook event. It's like, yeah, right, you're going to show up. I don't even want to hear it. Don't even tell me you're interested, because I know it's just a big fake book, right? Okay, but when you bring the people off of Facebook onto your scene, now all of a sudden you have caused a yes, an attraction, right? And you wanted to get a second yes, and you want to get a third yes, and you want to get a fourth yes. But the first yes is clicking that piece of media that speaks to them out on social media, and then blink where they're going to go. There has to be something that piques their interest, and this is what the blog is. Okay, so the blog is your basically your bait, right? There's an ocean of potential customers out there, people, your tribe. It's what they identify with, how they resonate with you, and what you want to do is not leave them hanging, right? They don't want to get disappointed. Oh, well, there wasn't a call to action at that site. They didn't have a new product for me to buy. I love getting stuff online, and they didn't have a link to anything. It was an interesting article, but yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna come back. Or here, fall deeper, see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Whoa, I just fell in, right? Okay, so if you want to make your website like you look in the rabbit hole, it's like, what's that? And you fall in, okay? And the way you do that is with by getting their email address, by getting them to want to give you their email address because they want something from you, which could be your free gift or your free webinar or your training or whatever. Register for the webinar, gotta have an email address. The whole point is to get the email address, but inside the webinar is where they're going to get the symptom problem solution offer, the education-based marketing. But getting the email address means that Facebook no longer has all your clients hostage, all your leads hostage. Plus, if they give you their email address, that means that they are much more likely to be a customer. The little yes equals the big yes. And if you keep them in a flow of little yeses, even just clicking on a link or clicking on a video button or anything that says yes, will eventually escalate into them joining your program. And then what we want to do is we want to talk about how the next thing that happens with that funnel is the front end product, right? And that's where it's something affordable they can get started with to sample your delivery. And if your delivery is good and you have the next upsell on there, which could be your front end subscription, could end up being a monthly thing where you're getting paid every month and you start building a volume of monthlies, to a flagship course, which could be your $997, your $2,000. And you don't need all this to get that course sold right now. But what I'm saying is $997, right? Okay, your front end product is $997. Your subscription is $50 a month. Your flagship course is $997 for the year or whatever. Like, you stack it. You've seen this. You've experienced this. Now you have entrance into the structure of this and how you can dial this in for you and your business. And you don't have to start with all of this, but if you start with this concept, then as these things develop, they'll drop right into place, and it will be just seamless. And you go where you want to go. We'll help you meet those goals. We know the milestones, and we'll make sure that you're doing what you need to kick yourself over the next hurdle and into the next league. So then, membership site. Right? That's where people can log in and access that 997 program or that 1997 program online. We're having people request to zoom into this class from Santa Fe. Right? So there's a demand once you have a quality content. People start hearing about it and they get results, and word gets around and you build it. Then the next thing is your live events, your workshops, your retreats, training seminars like what we're doing here, a subscription for a live event or a live event product, and then the high-end private coaching things for like $10 10,000 or more, where you're really spending some deep engaging time with them and working them through their transformation. And if you look at this as how you, as a business structure, it can be adapted to the different kinds of businesses, but the concept here is to have a complete program that gets them their ultimate end result so they can have their desired outcome, and how deep they want to go and how much they want to invest in themselves to get this transformation to occur is your business plan. Making the money is the business plan part, right? Borrowing the money is not a business plan. I don't know who thought of that, but somehow they convinced a lot of people that that was their business plan. And I think it's gone epidemic. So we're actually going to have the advantage here because none of us are dependent on funding from externalized sources. You're going to be able to get the money right away, even if it's enough to pay the bills. That's better than most because most are in debt. Okay. Then we just multiply that effort and see it grow from the testimonials and the influence of the people that you've successfully delivered to. And so there's this, and then what we want to talk about is in the blog. What are you writing in the blog? Okay, the blog, from a creative standpoint, can be anything. You could go a blog to a 7-year-old and they'll create something that is like way out there because they'll just put stuff together. It doesn't matter. They'll throw this, they'll throw that, they'll throw the other thing, they'll throw their cartoons from that they squiggled. They could like. You know, and this is where like Minecraft comes from, you know, it's like this, they create these environments and they throw the kids in there and they start building all kinds of things inside the universe. So a blog could be used for that in kind of like a 2D way, except for that parallax, you've got the 3D slide thing that can happen. I use this like a kid at my Hobbit Rock site. You go hobbitrock.com, right? And it's autoplay of one of my songs and it's got some, like, and you click through and it's like, I'm trying to make a little gaming adventure, okay? So I'm gamifying my music site just for an example of what kind of fun side of things, non-monetizing it, right? But then on the other side of the spectrum, if you get really focused with your blog, you can create a funnel that is highly lucrative. And so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the pillar content because everybody knows how to do finger paintings and crayons and Legos and sketchbooks and stuff like that. But let's get to where we can get focused with this. The pillar content, right? You can throw all kinds of ideas around, whatever you want. You could talk about, you know, the caterpillars in the garden today, but that could be valuable content for the gardening people. You know, you could talk about just about anything. You could rant. You could make your blog like a bunch of Facebook posts or ranting, whatever, right? I don't know what kind of audience you'd attract there, but if you get specific with your blog and you create pillar content, a pillar is something that holds up your building. You create pillar content that is very interesting and actually is valuable to people, and you revolve a few other articles around that so that each of these articles ends up having a call to action to a program, your entry level, your front end product, or your email list, to get on the email list, because then with the email list you can market to them your front end product and get them started on the front end product. So if you use the blog like a whirlpool, right, and it kind of whirls around your pillar content, then that pillar content is a significant idea that could be based out of this education-based marketing, which is vetted. What are their symptoms? So now you got a blog on the symptom. If you write a blog on the symptom that complements the marketing, that talks about the symptom, right, and you utilize that blog as part of your training materials, then you're creating a more and more robust program, because each piece, each article, each thing you do becomes part of the body of your work. Each one of these worksheets I create becomes part of the body of a semester-long workbook that's probably the best workbook in the world for this industry. Okay? But by methodically going through each part, then you end up with the whole thing. So you could come up with the concept and then start putting the framework in place, and then you put that out and accessible, you publish that, and then you start getting the responses, the feedback, and then you shape it accordingly. You keep adjusting it, and so that you get the maximum amount of opens on your emails, the maximum amount of opens on your posts, and the maximum amount of signups for your events and your program. And it's a lot of fun when you start, oh, like we're in the flow like this. Oh, this is cool. Can we adjust this? It's crazy when Dan calls us up on like, you know, Monday morning and said, I got 2 calls this week, you know, or whatever. I got 2 more calls yesterday from my Call Me website that we go, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. All right. So the pillar content, and then down here on the other part is communication channels. There's so many communication channels out there. You don't have to do them all, but if you're all about it, you can do them all. But as long as you're marketing strategic, you only have to pitch down a few channels to get results, and your stuff's just going to grow eventually. Just a natural progression. Yes, yeah, comes back to your blog through these posts. Even if they were watching a video on YouTube, you still a link back to the blog, because, and then really you don't even want to send them to YouTube. You want to send them to an embedded blog where the YouTube's embedded in the blog, and then they click on a call to action in the bottom that actually gets them signed up on the program. The whole goal of a blog is to get that email address. Ultimately, if you understand what we're doing here is to get the email address, and then we'll get into like, you know, what you do with the email. That's going to be in the 4th semester. Okay, that's a little bit more advanced. It's communicating with people live and through an email so that they actually enroll in your program. We'll get to that. So has everybody got an idea of what a blog is and how it can be used? Creative outlet. It could be used for all kinds of things, but you know, when you're a designer, you're redirecting attention to an end result, a goal, which is going to be that call to action. That call to action could be giving the email address for a free report or some other helpful thing, and then you can give them more education-based marketing that educates them right into being your customer. Any questions on that or pillar content?
Quick comment. The email campaign that Roger's building for me, Dad and Maria pulled together to build this email campaign we're starting.
Mm-hmm.
I can take bits and pieces of that and start throwing it back into the blog.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can repurpose the content always, and you can use it as fulcrums, right? Like, you know, they're going to come in here and they're going to come pivot on it and get them over here. So it's communication, and yes, all of these assets, after a while, you build all these assets, after a while, you've got a good body of assets, and they start coming into the right sequence so people can really flow through them.
Ghandolff, I've been debating into whether I do it in Spanish or I run it in Spanish or in English. What are your...
Both, because your website in our system, right, you can choose bilingual. You can go Spanish, and all the buttons show up in Spanish. So if you have a Spanish version of every page, it'll just flip to Spanish. So do both.
I don't have to translate it.
No, you have to translate the pages, but you don't have to translate the site. Like all the buttons, like home says casa, and it's and then it says the what's it? Inicio, right?
Can you write it? Post to your blog? You do it in both English and post it in Spanish.
Right. You have an English version and a Spanish version. So when they select Spanish, then the whole site goes to Spanish. All the articles you wrote, you have a Spanish version.
Tell us.
Yeah, if you want bilingual, then we just turn that on in your software, and you make. It doesn't translate the pages for you, but all the navigation is already automatically translated.
You do the translators. They have English to Spanish.
Yeah, that could be done too, and then she could proofread it.
Chrome will do it on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean the marketing itself also.
Why not? It's good. It's just the way the brain works. Try it. We'll try it because you're saying the same thing.